welcoming all the partners, all the participants, and for Transform Health. This is an initiative which is very, very close to all of our hearts, and this is first initiative that we are, collaborating with the partners like Cyient, Voice of Health, Rich, ASSOCHAM, and Xynteo to ignite the healthcare ecosystem in hospitals particularly. I am Pratyush. I lead the healthcare vertical for Advantage program at Wadhwani Foundation, and it is my honor and privilege to be your host today. So let's launch this program officially, Transform Health. So I will invite Mr. Sameer Sathe to start the session and launch the session. As an introduction, he leads the Wadhwani Advantage program in India, Egypt, and provides global mentorship to the Advantage program, which is focused on accelerating small business revenue and job growth. In addition, he leads the effort of Academy in building do-it-yourself consulting tools. He also leads the talent acquisition function at the foundation. He has close to 28 years of experience across India, Asia, Middle East, Hong Kong, and Singapore. He's master in change from INSEAD.
Thanks, Pratyush, and thanks everyone. I'm very glad and excited to see all of you here, and particularly happy about this initiative because this is very close to my heart. And healthcare is one of the important sectors that we all want to focus on collectively for different reasons. And this is a unique initiative, and I officially sort of announced that it is launched now. Transform Health, I welcome all my partners. So I'm Sameer, like Pratyush mentioned, from Wadhwani Foundation, and I welcome Cyient, Voice of Healthcare, Rich, ASSOCHAM, Xynteo, all the partners who have gathered here. I also welcome all the hospitals who are interested in becoming the beneficiaries of this program, which is truly unique as we earlier talked about. And, at this point of time, I'm excited because this is an emblem of just not a series of different people or experts talking about this initiative and imparting knowledge, but it's also about ensuring that the beneficiaries, the hospitals, are truly transformed. It's about action. It's just not about thought excellence. It's about also action. And which is why particularly this program is very, very unique, because we have had several sort of discussions that typically happen at the intellectual level between all of us, but unfortunately it doesn't sort of hit the ground. So this program is an attempt to make sure that whatever we say, whatever we debate, whatever we think about, which is particularly relevant to healthcare delivery as a sector, actually hits the ground. And therefore this program is truly unique. One of the important things that I want to mention about this program is all about its uniqueness. And going forward, we'll talk about it a bit more as we proceed with this session. So
I would like to invite Mr. N.J. Joseph. Joseph heads Scient's corporate strategy function to develop and execute organizations' service to solutions growth and investment strategies. He is a leader with ranging experience at Cyient since 1998. Joseph has held many senior positions and has played an active role in companies' acquisition and integration of business in the US, Europe, and India. Mr. Joseph is an alumni of University of Kerala. Welcome you, sir.
I'm delighted to join the launch of the Transform Health program this afternoon. Delighted to see about 30 participants, and I think that number will increase as we move forward. Just a few comments on the company I represent, Cyient. We are a 30-year-old publicly traded company that provides engineering and technology solutions across diverse industries. In the medical and healthcare space, we engage with global OEMs in areas like IVD, diagnostic imaging, cardiology, and consumer healthcare. And we support them in product design, manufacturing, and aftermarket services.
Absolutely.
Today's event is a hugely important milestone in the partnership that Cyient and Xynteo has forged over the past 4 years. Xynteo brought together the Vikaasa coalition to address important societal issues in India, and Cyient's focus in the coalition is on healthcare. Our vision is to enable the delivery of technology-led healthcare solutions in the most affordable way to benefit as many people as possible. It is about technology, economics, and scale. In 2019, a couple of years ago, Cyient and Xynteo created the Medtech Connect platform, and today's program is an evolution from where we began back in 2019. Medtech Connect brings together stakeholders across the healthcare ecosystem, from hospitals and healthcare providers to technology startups in industry, to government bodies, investment partners, and academia as well. And we're very gratified to see it has resulted in fruitful partnerships, access to markets and funding, to learning and mentorship. We collaborated with the Research and Innovation Center in Hyderabad, headed by Professor Angnekar, to launch Project Tej at the BioAsia event in 2020. Project Tej is helping to scale Medtech innovation by providing startups with access to test beds and industry networks. You will hear Professor Angnekar and Dr. Ashwin Naik talk more about it later in today's program, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank them for their leadership on Project Tej and the progress we have seen over the past 18 months. We are very encouraged by the collaboration between hospitals and the Medtech startup community. And I believe TransformHealth gives us the opportunity to further build on that important initiative. The TransformHealth program, from our perspective, is about helping hospitals create sustainable improvements in healthcare. It helps you engage with relevant networks and resources, gain access to innovative and emerging new medical technology, and benefit from regular peer-to-peer learnings and expert insights. We must collaborate to address and solve the complex challenges in healthcare and to bring the best of healthcare to our communities. I personally believe TransformHealth can become a great example of the power of collaboration, and wish you, the participants of the program, a lot of success in the months to come. Thank you again for the opportunity, and back to you, Pratyush.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Now I'd like to introduce Mr. Vipul Kumar. Vipul manages the Xynteo's Vikaasa partnership, a business-led coalition committed to creating a new growth model for India in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. In addition to this, Vipul leads the operation of Xynteo India. Vipul has spent over 20 years in management consulting, global development, innovation, and entrepreneurship, and is a regular speaker at various national and international forums. I invite you, Mr. Vipul, to talk about TransformHealth and welcome.
Thank you, Pratyush, for the very kind introduction, and especially thank you, Joseph, for very kindly introducing our partnership. But I do feel extremely satisfied and encouraged by the partnership that we have forged and what this is going to help us with. I just want to take a quick moment about introducing Xynteo and a little bit about our work on Vikaasa, which is the coalition in India. So Xynteo is a global advisory firm. We work with the world's largest businesses and their forward-leaning leaders in what we say reinventing growth models. And when we say reinventing growth models, we say growth that works with and not against nature, growth that kind of benefits the largest segment of the society and is inclusive. And the third, the growth that delivers long-term value and not just short-term return. In India, we run a flagship program, a coalition by the name Vikaasa. It's a coalition of purpose-driven organizations collaborating to drive and accelerate India's commitments on the United Nations Development Goals. We do this by designing various pilots, enable them to scale and create material impact. Vikaasa was launched in 2017 with support from its founding partners, which are leading global and India businesses. And we focus on 4 impact areas. One happens to be energy. Second, of course, on healthcare. Third is on sustainable mining. And the fourth is on waste management. And the coalition is supported by Hindalco, which is an Aditya Birla Group company, by Cyient, by Hindustan Unilever, by Shell, by the State Bank of India, Technip Energies, and WPP. Really, I think our work on healthcare, which has been very much supported by Cyient under Joseph's leadership, is working towards democratizing access to diagnostic healthcare and by really leveraging technology. And our approach has been on really identifying the ecosystem gaps, which could be around clinical validation, market access, capacity building, access to test beds, etc. And to be able to do that, really bring the right set of partnerships to enable addressing those gaps. Really, one of the areas, of course, is in providing access to test beds, which I think the current cohort or the current initiative would be particularly extremely critical. I just want to keep it short, but before I sign off, I just want to take one quick moment to kind of thank all our partners. Cyient, of course, for supporting our work on healthcare. Thank you, Joseph, for that. Wadhwani Foundation for coming at this critical juncture to help us scale our work. So thank you, Samir and the team. And Rich, of course, for his continued valuable support on project-based test beds. Thank you, Professor Rangnekar. And also wanted to acknowledge Voice of Healthcare, ASSOCHAM, in terms of helping us with this initiative, and really to all the cohort members who took this opportunity, responded to us very swiftly, and is part of the cohorts. I just want to take a moment to thank all of you and share my best wishes.
And now I'll introduce Mrs. Vikaasa Arora. She is the co-chair ASSOCHAM National Empowerment Council and chairperson Yashoda Super Speciality Hospital. She is the first Indian to be awarded the prestigious fellowship of International Society of Quality and Accreditation. She is mission member in CII Healthcare Mission on Lean and Six Sigma and NHS United Kingdom. She also holds an international fellowship on health technology assessment from Angela Ruskin University, UK. She has bronze certification in lean management from Cardiff University. She has been awarded at multiple forums for her contribution to the field of ethical healthcare practices, affordability, community empowerment, and women leadership. It's an honor for us to have you here, ma'am.
First of all, I would like to say thanks to Wadhwani Foundation and ASSOCHAM that they have given me this opportunity, that I am in this forum and I am going to listen to all the expertise and experts' advice and their views. Topic is really very relevant and very interesting, that transforming healthcare with innovation. And healthcare is transforming very fast now. If you see a few years back, healthcare was everybody, even patient was supposed to come to healthcare. But now things has changed. Healthcare is going and providing their services to patients at home through telemedicine, through some healthcare at home. And same time, lots of innovation and technology has taken place in healthcare. So like you can say this robotic surgery, this artificial intelligence, lots of new thing has launched in healthcare, and it is really helpful for the patient as well as the healthcare faculty. So I think the way artificial intelligence is taking shape and place in healthcare, I think within 5 to 10 years, we will see a different healthcare, a different kind of facilities we will provide to our patient. Even right now, we can see that if patient is at home and we can monitor him from distance. So it is a very different scenario for healthcare, and we are lucky that we can see this transition of changing of manual healthcare to totally depending on all the things with the computerization. And all doctors, I always say that engineers are working as an engineer, but doctors are working as an engineer as well as doctor as well as engineer, because all the equipments are based on computerization. So doctors should understand. So this is the time that we should actually understand that now healthcare is transforming and it is going to in a different direction, and which is very good. Thank you so much, Pratyush. Now I am going to listen everyone. Thanks a lot.
Now, Dr. Naveen Nishchal from Voice of Healthcare could not join us today, but he has shared a message for all of us, for the participants also. So Dr. Naveen Nishchal, he is chairman, Voice of Healthcare and co-founder Medtech. And Voice of Healthcare is one of the partners for this Transform Health initiative. He is very, very glad to see that Wadhwani Foundation, Voice of Healthcare, ASSOCHAM, Cyient, Rich, and Xynteo, all of us have come together and realized the importance of collaboration. And we are now actioning it to make it easier for the hospitals. So here is his message for all the participants. And what we will also, he communicated that he wanted this event to be a huge success, and that's what we all are hoping for from this particular event. Now, what I will do is I will request Mr. Sameer Sathe to introduce to us what is TransformHealth essentially, what are some of the offerings, and also talk about the things that we bring to the table for the hospitals and the things that they can benefit from. So over to you, sir.
Sure. So Pratish, thanks for this. So let me sort of once again look at this entire forum and put this in perspective based on the different fora that we usually attend. I think some of the things that really stand out as far as this TransformHealth program is concerned, as the tagline says, there is basically reimagining healthcare through technology and innovation, and that's the heart of it. There are 3-4 points that really come to mind. First is, I think the sheer collaboration which is required between the key stakeholders is super critical. And I think it's required as far as India is concerned, definitely for 2-3 reasons. One is, first of all, Indian healthcare requires tremendous scale. Secondly, it requires consistency in terms of how we deliver our treatments and our diagnosis to patients. And thirdly, there is also the whole debate and topic about talent, and all these problems are kind of interrelated. So when one wants to make a systemic change, one requires all the stakeholders in the system to collaborate very effectively. So TransformHealth is such a unique initiative. I say simply because if you read the number of collaborations that are there with Wadhwani Foundation, our foundation, Cyient, Voice of Healthcare, Rich, ASSOCHAM, and Xynteo, I think our attempt is to put together all these stakeholders together to bring about that systemic change. Because unless all these different aspects of healthcare system are addressed, we don't believe that the India is going to really realize its potential. Second point is that if you look at where India is today and even globally where India stands as far as the healthcare is concerned, I think it's very important to recognize some of the tremendous changes which are happening in our society in the way the paradigms are changing. As we mentioned earlier, 3-4 things are happening. First is really there is a whole emphasis on patient centricity, right? So earlier the expert, the doctor, the physician, the specialist always call the shots simply because the knowledge resided in them. But I definitely see that there is a tremendous change that is happening in Indian healthcare and even global healthcare, when the customer centricity, in this case, patient focus, is really changing the paradigms pretty fast. The second thing which is happening is the use of technology, not only in devices, but also in terms of ensuring that the entire journey of the patients is really automated in many ways. A lot of data usage is there, a lot of information sharing is there. There is a usage of artificial intelligence in some of the leading conditions, ovarian cancer, things like that. And I think if you see the AI applications which are happening at the rate at which they are happening, it has the ability to change the way a diagnosis is made. It has the ability to change the way a treatment is monitored. It has the ability to monitor the way the impact on the patients is really ascertained, both for better health outcomes as well as in terms of making the entire ecosystem more efficient and agile. So if you take the entire diagnostic delivery chain, and if you look at the entire patient lifecycle journey, we are at the cusp of huge number of changes. And if you were to recognize those changes, we need to bring all that to the advantage of the healthcare system across the stakeholders, which is why this initiative is all about bringing those expertise together, infusing them as one kind of recommendation and solution and TransformHealth initiative, and then ensure that all our beneficiaries, the hospitals, really undergo that transformation, utilizing and capitalizing on these different changes that are happening in the Indian and global ecosystem. So that's very important. I think the other thing is to basically look at using this forum and using this particular initiative itself as a great experiment, because if this experiment becomes successful, then I simply believe that such experiments need to be done again and again to make and to ensure that it's not only the hospitals which are a part of this program, but the hospital community in general across India really benefit from this whole revolution that is happening in data, in technology and innovation, and ensuring that all our stakeholders come together to be able to bring that to the table of all the beneficiaries as far as this program is concerned. So therefore, I think we felt that such initiative was much needed at this point of time. Rather than talking about potential, it was time to realize that potential. And we believe by collaborating between the partners like all of us, we have a great chance to make it happen. Next slide, please. So what is it really? I think basically when we think about this, it is a 360-degree knowledge, advisory, transformation support to healthcare delivery providers. If I were to really summarize this, when I talk about 360 degrees, I basically mean that whatever expertise is needed that is needed for the benefit, the scale and productivity of the healthcare delivery entities, that's what we want to bring in terms of the 360-degree knowledge. And it's just not about knowledge, but it's about ensuring that there is an enablement of that knowledge, there is an application of that knowledge, and therefore the transformation support is very important. Just like when we think about patient, the holistic medicine, when we think about patient, keeping patient at the center of everything that we do, we want to make sure that the healthcare providers, the deliveries, the delivery entities who are providing that healthcare to the patients is also kept at the center. Because if the healthcare delivery is not made robust, there is no chance that the patient's health can be improved. I think we are of a very strong belief that the provider of the health has to be as strong as the beneficiary. Because if the provider of the health is not strong, then there is very little chance that the beneficiary will become stronger. And therefore, what we want to do is three things. We want to ensure that we want to find the right network resources, assistance, and guidance in order to make the journey of the hospitals transformative, truly transformative in nature. We want to collaborate, with innovative medtech companies in real-world settings to be able to do both things, right? We want to bring biology, we want to bring engineering, we want to bring knowledge, we want to make AI possible, we want to get technologies adopted. So we want to do that through this TouchBed program. And third thing is we want to basically participate in our outcome-based virtual sessions on relevant and important topics. And why I would say outcome-based is basically, I think this is just not a program wherein experts will come talk about their expertise areas. There will be very interesting debate and conversations, but it's all about actually testing that conversation, using that knowledge on the ground with the healthcare delivery participants that are there as a part of the program, which is why that is, this program is truly unique. And that's what this program is all about. Ensuring we have right network, collaboration, bringing all the right stuff, right 360-degree knowledge to table. And third is a very high bias towards action in participating in the outcome-based sessions. Move to the next one. So what is it that we want to offer? As a result of this whole focus, we want to offer a couple of things. We want to offer business discovery and transformation advisory. I will talk about it in a minute. What does this mean? We want to offer panel discussions and outcome-based expert sessions. We have a very interesting day coming up tomorrow, and some of the other sessions we're going to follow today, wherein you will have access to those panel discussions and expert sessions. We want to have all the healthcare delivery chains and the hospitals who are participant of this program to have access to advisors and peer networks. It's just not about listening to them. It's about having access and utilizing their knowledge. We want to offer onboarding into TestBed's program for innovation. This is very critical. I've written a couple of articles wherein, the thought process is at the time of the difficulty, one often thinks about survival. But if you really think deeply, growth is survival. There is no distinction between growth and survival. If you grow, you will survive. It's not the other way around. You will survive and therefore you will grow. It's very, very fundamental to the way we think. And it's high time that the delivery entities think about this paradigm shift. They have to think about growth. They have to think about growth, and innovation is one of the biggest enablers of growth. So when we think about innovation, the survival will be taken care of. We are of a strong belief of that. And therefore that's something that we want to offer. Health tech and medtech technology product access. I mentioned earlier that there are so many changes happening in healthcare system, right? And unless we bring this technology and product access to the delivery chains and the entities which are the participants of this program, it will only be a lip service. So we want to offer that. We want to do that as a definite forum and platform to be able to ensure that they have an access to this world's leading technology and products. And these things need not be really expensive. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that the economics of these systems is really plays out very well, and benefits the economics of the healthcare delivery chain. So that's something that we want to offer. And lastly, we want to offer digital learning management system for the workforce. We have very interesting sort of offerings coming from another sort of program from Wadhwani Foundation, wherein we are looking at what is it that we can do to the workforce. So if you look at the three things that I mentioned earlier, the scale, the talent, the consistency of the sort of the entire diagnostic and delivery that we offer to patients, all those things are brought together in terms of the offering set that we have as a part of TransformHealth. Next one, Pratyush. So I think very quickly, if you were to really look at it, it has two components. Every Wednesday for a next sort of schedule, and Pratyush will talk about it in detail. Every Wednesday we have these panel discussions and outcome-based expert sessions, wherein there is an infusion of knowledge, discussions, debate that happens. And I would strongly recommend all the participants to attend these sessions regularly. As the empirical evidence very clearly shows, it's about ensuring that we watch and learn, we debate and learn, and there are learnings that happen between experts and beneficiaries, and there are learnings that happen even between peers. We want to encourage this discussions and these debates between the peers and between the experts and the beneficiaries, so that this learning is brought to table. The second thing that happens on every Wednesday, which you will witness, is showcasing events of networking, right? Because if peer discussions have to happen and all of you have to benefit from each other, it's just not enough to actually imbibe knowledge and learn. It's important to put it in application. The best way to put it in application is to network with your supply chains, your customer chains, demand chains, etc., and your partners, and to be able to make happen together. So therefore, these networking events are supposed to basically give you a product showcase, innovative showcase, and also ensure that you significantly network. So that's one component of this entire program. The second important component of this entire program is one-on-one support, which is where the action comes into picture. At the end of the day, all this knowledge and all the discussions that we are doing is extremely helpful. It's only when you put them into action. So one of the things that we want to do as a part of Wadhwani Foundation Advantage program, wherein healthcare is one of our important sectors, is to give that business discovery and transformation advisory support. Now, business discovery and transformation advisory support is basically ideating and actioning on those ideas, right? And we will take you through a structured process whereby we will handhold you in transforming your hospitals by administering a very clearly automation-led business discovery, which is based on the so many human years of expertise in healthcare and life sciences and medical devices that has informed the way you would diagnose your business, right? And this similarly, like in healthcare, you would have many diagnostic techniques coming up. Similarly, in advisory business, there are many diagnostic techniques coming up. So what we have done is that we have built tools which will allow you to govern, monitor, and scale up your hospitals faster. So that's what we call business and transformation advisory support. That will happen along with this panel discussions and outcome-based expert sessions that happen on every Wednesday. One-on-one support is not every Wednesday, it's continuous, whereas these sessions happen on every Wednesday. So I just wanted to clarify that. The one-on-one support happens continuously over a period of next 2 months, and every Wednesday is where these sessions will happen. Move to the next one, Pratyush. And I was mentioning, I think, the one of the things that is going to happen is about panel discussions. Tomorrow is going to be a very interesting session. I would strongly encourage all of you to attend that. There are going to be two sort of very important buckets here. The first one is really, the slot between 4 and 5 p.m. It's for about 45 minutes or 1 hour. And this panel, we're really focusing on a couple of points. One is in terms of the workforce, retaining and motivating the workforce. We all know that in healthcare, whether it is medical, paramedical, ICU, any other kind of staff, actually we are in deficit, right? Both in terms of the level of the professionalism, also in terms of numbers based on the demand and supply gap. Now, how do we ensure that the workforce is retained and motivated, because they have to be most productive? So that's one. Second is, very importantly, to improve patient experience. Now, this is important, super critical, because everything that we are doing today is for the sake of patients. And in fact, we are doing everything for not only patients, but also humans at risk of becoming patients. Right? So we want to make sure that the patients are given the right treatment pathway, but we also want to make sure that eventually the health outcomes better based on the expenditures and investments that are needed in healthcare. The outcomes should also be commensurate with that. right? So we don't want to end up with huge amount of investment and expenditure with little outcomes on health. And we want to make sure that the entire patient experience, whether it is clinical experience or whether it is other than the other factors that really go along with this entire clinical diagnosis and treatment, the patient experience is really maximized. So that's the second important topic. And thirdly is really building and maintaining the hospital brand. Now, this is very important given the way the changes are happening in the entire hospital landscape, right? Whether it is primary care, secondary care, tertiary care, whether it is diagnostic, anything that you look at, there is going to be a shift in terms of the expansion plans of the hospitals, which specialty that they want to offer, what sort of model do they have in hub and spoke, what sort of clinicians, doctors would they engage, how does it impact their patient targeting mechanism, how do we make sure that the brand promise of the hospital stays very true when they really expand. All these are super critical topics, and we will cover those topics in that session. And when we think about really, I think the workforce, and it automatically leads to the second one, which is the second session between 5 and 6. It's about the Wadhwani opportunity. We have another sort of another program in the Wadhwani Foundation that focuses on skilling and training, which is important from the perspective of ensuring that the talent is skilled and talent is trained. And this is something that is offered as a philanthropy free of cost to all the participants. And we have a learning management system to be able to do that. It's a group session. Please attend both these sessions. It's going to be extremely important from the overall perspective of all the topics that we are talking about as far as this entire Transform Health platform is concerned. We are going to have this whole session moderated by Commander Navneet Bali. He needs no introduction. And Pratyush will talk about him, when in terms of what are the sort of credentials he brings to the table. But I think the good part is that by his efficient sort of moderation of this entire session, we are going to have a very interesting dialogue. And this is just the start, and then we're going to continue with that over a period of next few months when it comes to the Transform Health program. So I'll take a few minutes to sort of talk about who we are. I earlier sort of Pratyush made introductions individually, but I think it's important for all of you to know what Wadhwani Foundation is and what Wadhwani Advantage program is, and it's particularly in healthcare, what is it that we want to do. So Wadhwani Foundation is really a global philanthropy. It's basically set up by Dr. Ramesh Wadhwani. He's a Padma Shri Award winner. He's a billionaire sitting in the US for last 40 years. A brilliant sort of entrepreneur right from the beginning, and plus he has been able to sort of nurture and build 42 businesses in his life. He's 74 years old, but the good part is, like his wallet, his heart is also large, right? So he has pledged $1.5 billion to the whole mission of job creation. And when we think of job creation, we think about making acceleration in economics of the growth engines so that the jobs are created. So we want to achieve the social objectives through achieving the economic objectives. And that's what we want to do. We want to empower millions of, family supporting wage earners, transforming them for future generations to live a life of dignity. That's what we want to do. And what we have set out to do is really to upskill 25 million family supporting wage jobs in 10 years and really create 10 million respectful jobs. Now, Advantage program is a flagship program which is aiming to create 7 to 10 million jobs by 2030. And that's our mission. That's the program I lead. Across the foundation, we are present in 20 countries. Our nerve center really is India. This is where we began. This is where Dr. Ramesh Wadhwani has his roots. And we want to really ensure that we play a very pivotal role in terms of making economic progress of small and medium-sized enterprises, which are one of the largest growth creating engines. And within that, among the top 5 sectors, healthcare is one of our most important sectors that we want to focus on. Go ahead, Pratyush. So very quick snapshot about us. In last 2 years since we began this program, our whole mission is to empower the SMA teams. Now, I think this is a very important critical point. I want to spend half a minute on this. We are just not like any other advisors who would come, given a mandate, and then solve the problem. What we want to make sure is to train you and empower you so that you are able to carry forward the progress on your own. And this is why we want, our mission is to empower, going beyond helping you with and hand-holding you with the transformation. What are the results that we have? We want to enable about 1,000 SMEs a year in India and Mexico individually. We want to scale to 10,000 SMEs a year by 2025 in 20 countries. By God's grace, in last 2 years, we have been pretty successful. We have served about 1,000 SMEs, half in India, half in Mexico. We have had the opportunity to sort of capture the customer feedback. As many of you will know, Net Promoter Score as a concept, we have been able to achieve a Net Promoter Score over 50, which is considered to be very good. We have been able to solve 70 different types of problems. We have impacted 15,000 employees, their lives, their livelihoods. We have been able to set the SMEs on the growth path with a 2 to 5x revenue acceleration, which is important. We have been able to do this for 25 industries, but within that, if I were to really look at 5 important sectors, healthcare forms one of them, and which is why Pratyush, Vivian, and I sort of have spearheaded this whole thing. We also have partnerships and curated advisory networks. So for example, that's exactly where Xynteo and we started working together some months ago. And that's how we came into partnering with each other, because we want to make sure that the best brains are brought to table for philanthropic purposes. And we want to really benefit this entire community. Across India, we have been present. So wherever you are located, it doesn't really matter. I think from our perspective, we want to really build the top-notch expertise, automated, ensure that we do it in an assisted manner, and therefore those 300 plus human years of experiences behind those tools, analytical tools, and all the sort of mechanisms that will follow to be able to diagnose and transform your organizations. We have kind of built about 60 plus different tools, automated tools in discovery and solutions, which address different problem statements of organizations, whether it is growth, whether it is efficiency, talent, etc., etc. Plus, we have a 360-degree view of the content, which is there on the app. We have an app, go and download that app. Pratyush can give you those details, which basically is an enablement, a technology platform, which will allow you to access knowledge and also monitor your journey in transformation on using the technology. And this is something that we bring to table. So what do we do into this? We basically focus on 5 key important things. We want to give you help in your leadership, in your growth objectives, in ensuring that we address your people-related problems. We look at your finance-related, cash-related issues as well. And we want to ensure that the right technology is brought to table. As I was mentioning earlier, one of the important things about this whole collaboration is to ensure that you have access to these technologies, and when you transform yourself, that is brought to table as a part of the holistic recommendation and solution for you to really accelerate your growth, right? I think a couple of highlights in terms of why we think it's going to be very relevant and useful to you, which is evidenced by our Net Promoter Score, is that I think we want to make it personalized. It's not a rookie cutter, basically a very standard way of doing things, and we want to customize it based on your need, the way you want to grow, and we want to have that personalized training and intervention to empower you. 300 years of experience, like I mentioned earlier, it addresses both issues. It addresses the growth issues as well as the efficiency issues. We have built these tools over, and looked at about 30 plus different critical key performance indicators to govern businesses. Like, in any business or in any hospital chain, it's important to govern the health of the hospital, just like you govern the health of the patient. And we have developed those health parameters for the hospital. So once you know that whether the health of the hospital is good, bad, ugly, our recommendations stem from there, and then we will transform your hospital delivery chains and the entities based on that status. It's very data-led. It's just not about opinions, it's about data. So we will encourage all the hospitals to basically analyze, interpret data. We use techniques wherein we will look at visualization of that data and interpret that data so that you understand how to make decisions based on data. It's industry benchmarked, so you will know where you stand, of course, but you will also know where you stand in relation to your peers and to your other global counterparts, which is very important. It is market tested with subject matter experts and SMEs. So what we are bringing to the table is authenticated, is tested properly before we bring to you. And it's dynamic. So it's easy to use and, for you to sort of play with, and our consultants will help you to sort of to navigate that journey. And that's something that we want to bring in as world-class global offerings from Advantage for you guys. Go ahead, Pratyush. It has basically two main stages, what we call discovery and what we call transformation. So what do we do when we engage with you, right? At the end of the day, when you want to grow, you want to either become a challenger or a leader in respective space that you are in, right? Whether it is a specialty that you're looking at, whether it is in terms of geography that you're looking at, whether it is in terms of the specific client, the patient segment that you're looking at, or whether it is in terms of particular technology that you want to bring in and want to have expertise in. Any dimension that you take, we want to make sure that we first discover. So which means you discover yourself and your enterprise. you transform yourself and your enterprise, and then you govern it, right? And many of the answers that you seek are sometimes known to you based on the gut feel, but what you need is a validation. So we bring in that validation. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So we bring to you what you don't know based on outside in perspective, because you have an inside view of what's your hospital doing, what is it like. What we would do is that we will bring in that outside in perspective. And that's something that typically happens in the first stage, what we call discovery. Post that, there is something called transformation that we do to you, and which is nothing but there are basic solution tools and advanced solution tools that we bring to table to be able to find out what are the top 3-4 areas that need to be attacked for your hospital delivery chain. And we will examine those areas, prioritize those areas, and handhold you in implementation of all the things that need to be done to fix those areas. There might be opportunities for you to capitalize, which is a growth related sort of perspective. We would help you to ensure that you build growth engine based on addressing those opportunities. So that's what we bring to you in when we say business discovery and transformation tools and 360-degree content and curated experts. Pratyush, can you move to the next one? So I think if you really look at it, in the interest of time, that's what I wanted to speak on. One of the important things that we want to make sure, again, emphasizing that action is as important as the thought. We want to bring the thought to you. We want to bring action to you. We are there to support you both in thought and action. Our partners, Wadhwani Foundation, Cyient, Voice of Healthcare, Rich, ASSOCHAM, Xynteo, all of us basically are very keen to make sure that this whole promise of Transform Health is really realized through this through this program. So I would encourage to take advantage of this, get a one-on-one support to realize what your dreams are. Click on that link, which you can see on the screen out there. Pratyush can give those details a little bit later, and make sure that you transform yourself. Make sure that you get ongoing support from us. Make sure that you have a technology support, our platform giving you 360-degree content support. And I think that's the best way to grow. At the end of the day, we are of the firm belief that no one can do it alone. We have to collaborate together, partner together to bring to table the respective strengths, and then make sure that all your beneficiaries really benefit from it. And that's our endeavor. Thank you so much. Very happy to take any questions later on now. You can type in the chat there if you have any questions. We will answer them subsequently as well. But thank you once again, all of you. And I'm very excited once again to kick off this whole program along with my partners and see the action happening.
Thanks a lot for introducing Transform Health. I'm sure all the audience is now very, very excited to know so much is so much is being offered, but that's not all. So we also have the test bed program, and for that I will be inviting Professor Ajit Rangnekar, who is Director General Research and Innovation Circle of Hyderabad. He's the director. It's a it's a joint initiative of the Telangana government, which is the joint initiative of the Telangana government and Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor, Government of India, to take the innovation in agriculture, health and sustainability to market. He retired as a Dean of Indian School of Business and has been member of many global committees and advises boards of foundations and social ventures. We are very, very proud to have you here, sir. Professor. Over to you.
Thank you, Pratyush, and thank you, Wadhwani Foundation. This is really a wonderful program, and we at Rich are delighted to partner with you, all of you, in this program to transform healthcare delivery. Pratyush spoke briefly, who have not heard of us before. The Research and Innovation Circle of Hyderabad, short form RICH, is the name of the Hyderabad Science and Technology Cluster, which, as Pratyush mentioned, is a joint initiative of the Telangana state and the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor of the government. We help to fast track innovations in health, agriculture, and sustainability. Our focus is on identifying the major problems and gaps in the ecosystem and then try and place them. In the last 2 years alone, we have worked with about almost nearly 200 startups in the healthcare area. And in this current year alone, we have evaluated over 100 startups in med devices, especially Medtech devices. So like others have already mentioned, we see some major new trends in the healthcare delivery area. due predominantly to the increasing use of technology, especially digital technology. We can now do faster analysis, we can do quicker and cheaper drug discovery, we can do telemedicine, give better patient experience, cheaper, faster, and much easier to use devices which can be used anywhere across the country, stronger, far more reliable supply chains, robotics, and the list goes on. Every day, new startups coming from the world of technology are bringing their expertise to the healthcare delivery systems. And some of these will dramatically alter the current healthcare delivery model. In the future, it will allow us to deliver high quality, affordable healthcare to all the people, even the poor, across the length and breadth of the country. But to make this a reality needs leadership. And I must compliment Wadhwani Foundation for taking up that role. Thank you. So coming back to our own experience, Xynteo, Cyient and Bridge together identified that one big gap to using many of these technologies was the lack of medical knowledge amongst many of the solution developers and their inability to first of all get clinical advice and then to test, evaluate and certify their devices. That is why in Rich we conceived two programs. One is the Acceleration Initiative for Diagnostics and the other is the Project Tej. Under AID, we select promising startups and help them fast-track development of Medtech solutions. And under Project Tej, very specifically, we look for those startups that need to be connected with hospitals to get their devices tested in real-life situations. Now, while connecting the startups to hospitals is easy, developing a good working relationship between a startup and a hospital takes a lot of effort. And my colleague Paridhi Gupta is here in this case. She's the one who needs to putting it on. So startups often do not understand the high medical treatment standards, their need for IRB, ethics committees, patient privacy issues, regulatory requirements, etc. Hospitals in turn find it difficult to appreciate the risk-taking mindset of startups. Hopefully, cohorts like this one will help to bring about a better working relationship. But that is where we really bring value, is in bringing those two together. I also hope that in this cohort or maybe in another one, we can have honest discussions on the differing perceptions of the values being added. So the hospitals have one perception and the startups have. And therefore, there is a fairly big disconnect amongst them as to how these contributions should be priced and what is the fair future benefit sharing model. Ultimately, we must understand there is an enormous mutual benefit to be had if digital companies can work closely with hospitals. And that will happen only when there is a shared understanding of value and trust. We would very much like to be partners in that journey. My best wishes to all of you. If any one of you wishes to understand what we do and participate in the testbed program, I'm requesting my colleague Paridhi to share our coordinates. Please feel free to reach out to us. The central and state governments pay our salary, so you don't have to pay a thing for our services. All the best and look forward to a great outcome. Thank you.
What is this testbed program? So for this, I'll be inviting Dr. Vandana. She is a consultant, mentor, business development professional with close to 15 years of experience in healthcare and life sciences domain. She has been helping businesses who are facing problems with respect to enabling scale, market growth. In her current role at Xynteo Vikaasa healthcare vertical, she is involved in forging strategic partnerships and alliances with stakeholders along the value chain, including innovators, multilaterals, government, and co-creating business models to scale.
Thank you, Pratyush. Good evening, everyone. So I'm doing this session jointly with Dr. Ashwin Naik. He had to sort of leave the call for a few minutes. but I'll start and then he can join us. So I just wanted to take some time to take you through the testbed program, which also Professor Rangnekar has talked about. So it's a joint collaboration between Xynteo, Vikaasa, Cyient and RICH, and it is anchored by the state of Telangana. So as Joseph and Vipul have mentioned, Xynteo Vikaasa and Cyient came together 3 years back, and we sort of brought the Medtech innovation ecosystem together through a couple of our platforms. And our work's aim was to strengthen India's Medtech ecosystem so that we can bring together all the key stakeholders and democratize healthcare. Over the last 3 years, our platforms Medtech Connect and Project Age have convened a strong community of business and government leaders to essentially address systemic challenges and come up with interventions which are a mix of technology and, of course, implementation partners to sort of change the healthcare ecosystem and democratize the healthcare delivery. So as Professor Rangnekar also mentioned, as we were going through this work with the healthcare ecosystem, there were a lot of challenges and gaps that we could see at a systemic level. So some of the learnings for us while working in Medtech Connect were to sort of the long life cycles of product testing and validation. There were also felt like lack of resources and understanding of the last mile ecosystem. There were limited avenues to collaborate with clinical and industrial partners, and there were like a lot of complex regulatory channels and public health procurement processes that had to be navigated by the Medtech innovations. Of course, the hospitals can play a very critical role here. We have also done a small survey with hospital providers, and we hear them loud and clear that it would be really helpful if some of the innovators could early on work with hospitals to kind of develop the technology. So looking at all these learnings and insights that we have gathered, we thought that the opportunity was ripe to kind of design an intervention and alliance, an ecosystem initiative, which would actually improve access to clinical settings and the industry networks, and also help forge pathways to sort of go around this regulatory hurdles and public health onboarding and sort of go into the government channels. So in order to create this access, market access channels, which will eventually lead to scale up and commercialization, we launched the Project Age initiative along with RICH and Cyient. So Project Age was launched in February of 2020 with the help of the government officials of Telangana. And this was earmarked as an alliance for accelerating late-stage healthcare innovations and also enabling their access to public health channel as well as private channels. The way the alliance works, the approach that we have is we would like to bring together partnerships of different stakeholders, including hospital providers. And this is where it really aligns with what Sameer has already explained about TransformHealth. So through our Project Age initiative and of course the work with Wadhwani Advantage, today we are coming together because these two are actually two sides of the same coin. So for the healthcare ecosystem to really be able to work with innovations and technology and be able to scale and also sort of widen the healthcare delivery to maybe, let's say, the last mile, the rural India, this is very, very necessary that there's a partnership of stakeholders and including funders, non-profit and other ecosystem enablers. So the approach that we have taken in Project Age is to not only to go for this transformative partnership, but also to work for catalyzing capital and sort of do fundraising for the Medtech innovators. So our key offering, which is very relevant for this particular cohort of hospital delivery partners, is to develop test beds by working with these hospital providers. And the way we have envisaged this is some of the homegrown Medtech innovations will be able to access these test beds, and I'll just show you some of the work that we have already done. And this access to real world clinical settings would really help the innovations to tailor their offerings according to what the hospital providers need, so that it can lead to better patient outcome and also proper decision supports by the doctors themselves. So our expected outcomes is that through this partnership, we'll be able to create a healthcare delivery that can be, be at the rural as well as the last mile. So far we have, since last 1.5 years, we've been able to forge at least 30 plus partnerships and garner support from institutional partners as well as the government. And we have kickstarted 4 collaborative projects and working with 15 plus technology solutions. And I'll be also talking about some of the examples of some of the initial studies that we have done. So here are a couple of examples where we have done some last mile usability studies and validation along with our partners like Tata Trust and Cygnus. So what we have done is some of the Medtech innovators approached us, and this particular one was in the field of hypertension NCDs, and we were able to work with them and do sort of usability study with at least 50 to 100 patients, and were able to further deploy this in the Tata Trust network. Similarly, we worked with Cygnus Hospital to do a scale-up deployment of the CDL device, which is used for cardiovascular screening, and will able to develop a PPPU model. So we hope that in TransformHealth, with all the hospital partners that have been onboarded, the Despite program can be opened up, and also we can sort of bring together some very late stage medtech innovations and showcase them and work together with these hospital providers to see how these can be scaled. So I see that Ashwin has joined. So I invite him to sort of add his points on how the project-based testbed program can be opened for the TransformHealth. Over to you, Ashwin.
Thank you, Vandana. Sorry, I had to step out for a minute. Yeah, I think that, like Vandana suggested and shared, this is an important piece of what we do. But let me highlight, from a hospital background, how we have benefited from similar testbeds in the past. I used to run Vatsalya hospitals for about 15 years, and one of the key elements for us was how do we bring innovation within the hospital network for 2 or 3 reasons. One is it allows us to experiment and adopt new technology. The second one is it allows our physicians to participate in innovative research. And third is, of course, it helps us to improve efficiency or reduce cost within the hospital. So given the pace at which technology is changing, I think it's very important that hospitals like ours and all of you who are here are involved in either testing or in many cases co-creating medical technology which will solve problems. So I believe that having access to a test bed benefits both the technology providers, the startups, and also hospital players who might want to improve efficiency or affordability. So this initiative, while has been running for about a year or so, I think it's still at a very nascent stage. While it is mature in the state of Telangana, we are in the process of expanding it across the country, and hopefully we'll have a nationwide network of test beds. And we would love to invite all the hospital members here to come join the test bed and help us innovate new technologies. Thank you.
So now we will introduce the experts for the outcome-based expert sessions and panel discussion. So as you are aware, that we have planned a lot of panel discussions and outcome-based expert sessions. So here is an opportunity to know the experts that we have invited, and we have made sure that in each of these sessions you get some outcomes. So the sessions have been designed in a way that you will not only understand the topic in deeper, but also get something out of the entire session. Some outcomes will be there for you from the session. Now, the first expert is Sonali Gokia. She is co-founder and lead experience strategist at Bold Experience Design Studio, which is she is an international service designer and customer service expert that has empowered organizations to deliver great customer experiences for the last 20 years. Sonali has business degree from Tulane University, US, a master's in service design from Italy, and several behavioral training and adult learning certification. She has worked as a strategy consultant at UC Strategy, sales trainer, and retail and education manager for the L'Oreal luxury brands, as well as service designer in Europe for Logotel, a cutting-edge service design and innovation agency. She'll be taking the session Reimagining the Patient Experience. So next expert, Mrs. Arundhati Mukherjee. She's a marketing leader, having recently worked extensively with small and medium hospitals and enterprises for the last 4 years to enable them to compete with the largest players in the global market. She has earlier worked as a group leader for marketing at TCS and Xynteo, and she was also a group head marketing for CK Birla Group for close to 22 years. She has advised chairmen, boards, CEOs, and MDs on the go-to-market strategy and approach, also brand development, positioning, and brand building. This includes defining the approach towards the media, digital, and traditional way of doing things for increasing the visibility, awareness, and crisis management. She is an expert in long-term brand building, sales enablement, which enable an impactful presence in the ecosystem for the small and medium hospitals and enterprises. So she'll be taking the building the hospital brand and attracting the patients session. So next slide, please. Next, we have Mr. Sanjay Papna. He is a healthcare professional with close to 30 years of experience. He specializes in overall business strategy and sales. He is a VP at Doxper, a company that solves both entry-level digitization and physician burnout. So prior to joining Doxper, he had a long and successful stint at Philips Healthcare, holding leadership positions in sales, business management, and country management across India, Southeast Asia. Before Philips, Sanjay had worked with L&T, HCL, HP, and HLN Technologies. Sanjay earned his bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from NIT Kurukshetra in 1984. He'll be walking us through the session, identifying and plugging the revenue leakages. Next we have Ms. Ratna Mehta. She is based out of Mumbai and she heads the Wadhwani Catalyst Fund, which invests in high-quality entrepreneurs with scalable business models and programs, with the overall objective of accelerating economic development by creating livelihoods and jobs. She is a private equity investor with close to 20 years of experience across growth, buyout, and early investing, consulting, and banking. Has experience spanning the entire life cycle of investing, portfolio turnarounds, and exits across multiple investments. Prior to joining Catalyst Fund, she was with BCG in strategy consulting. Prior to BCG, she was part of Everstone Capital as executive director, where she has spent close to 11 years overseeing investments in consumer, education, financial services, and healthcare. She has been on the board of various portfolio companies, driving overall strategy and growth. She is also a board advisor to various startups and an active member of various entrepreneurship networks. She will be taking the session Understanding the Investor Mindset. Next slide, please. Yeah. Next, we have Dr. Praneeth Kumar. Dr. Praneeth Kumar is an advisor and thought leader in the healthcare sector. He is a senior healthcare professional with over 4 decades of experience, including 35 years as a healthcare business manager. He started his management career after around a decade as clinician in Mulchand Hospital, where he contributed and led the transformation of the hospital into one of the best equipped private hospitals in Delhi. He led the formulation and implementation of first online computerization of hospital management system in India in the 80s. He was then involved in commissioning MGS Hospital in West Delhi, Dharamshila Cancer Hospital and Research Institute in East Delhi, and turnaround and formulation of future expansion plans for NC Jindal Hospital, Hisar, Haryana, and evolved into a leader in health and hospital management arena. He will be taking the session Overcoming Challenges in Digitalizing Healthcare Delivery. Next, we have Dr. Sunita Maheshwari. She is Outlook Business Wow 2019 Award, 2014's Amazing Indian Award by Times Now. And she's a US board certified pediatric cardiologist who did her MBBS at Osmania Medical College, followed by post-graduation at AIMS, Delhi, and Yale University in the US. She was the winner of the Young Clinician Award from the American Heart Association and the Best Teacher Award at the Yale University. She was nominated one of the top 20 women achievers in medicine in India in 2009 and in the list of 50 most powerful women in India in 2016. Apart from her medical clinical work, she is a medical entrepreneur and co-founded and is the chief dreamer at Teleradiology Solutions. It's India's first and largest teleradiology company that has provided over 5 million diagnostic reports to patients and hospitals globally. Telerad Tech, which builds AI-enabled telehealth software, RSDX multi-speciality neighborhood clinics in Bangalore, and has incubated other startup companies in the telehealth space, such as Health Minds, a telecounseling platform. She's active in social arena in India, where she runs 2 trust funds. People for People has put over 300 2 trust funds. So she'll be taking the session Emerging Telemedicine Possibilities for Remote Diagnostic Monitoring and Management. So next slide, please. So we have already introduced Samir, but so I'll talk about Sunil Daya. He leads the Wadhwani Opportunity Program at Wadhwani Foundation. Sunil is an industry leader with 28 years of experience in vocational education and training space. He leads Wadhwani Opportunity, the skilling program in Asia, and expanding it in the emerging economies. He had co-founded new B2B vertical StackRoute during his stint at NIIT. His work has resulted in the placements of more than 200,000 students. He has also led the product management, technology alliances, business development, and channel management verticals over the course of his stint. He'll be part of the panel discussion tomorrow, and we'll hear a lot more from him on the workforce side of things. So that's about the experts. Next, what we want to do is essentially understand who all are our peers, who are the participants, who are the hospitals who are going to be part of the TransformHealth. So let's go to the next slide, Vivian. Yeah. So what we will do is as TransformHealth, we want this initiative to be slightly different. We don't want it to be just a monologue from our side. So we want you to participate. So we will show all the participants on each of the slides. So there is huge interest, huge receptivity on this TransformHealth program. But we'll be asking some questions and opening it up, opening the forum to respond to share your experiences and ensure that the peer learning happens in this particular session. So first of all, I welcome all of you. So Vivian, you can probably go to all of the slides, one by one. Just take a pause for a few minutes, and then we'll open up the forum. Yeah. So we have Piyush Rai, Dr. Mamta, Dr. Rupesh, Dr. Shruti, Suresh Kalra, Dr. Neeta, and Aditya Jha. Rajashekar Patel, Dr. Kulveer, Praveen, Utkarsh, Dr. Umesh, Abhishek Raj, Dr. Purva Reddy, Mr. Pradeep Kandari, Dr. Pradeep Mahajan, Dr. Ankur, Dr. Rajshekar, Jasjeet Singh, Dr. Arjun, Mr. Satish, Mr. Kapil, Mr. Deepak, Mr. Mahendra, Dr. Anurag, and Mr. Manish. So thanks a lot. Now we have actually prepared a few questions for the audience, and I humbly request all of you to share your experiences, share what you are seeing at your hospital, and in a way this will help us facilitate the peer-to-peer learning as well. The first question could be, how has COVID impacted the way you function today? How has been your experience, and how are you dealing with it today now that COVID is receding? So this is open for all the participants. Anybody who would like to share their experience would be happy to hear it. Dr. Ashwin, I would probably request you, because you're also part of the hospital. So why don't you share your experience with respect to COVID? And then I think we'll have to kind of start calling out people and asking them the question. So that's the way we will be able to facilitate the peer-to-peer learning. But first question to you, sir.
Yeah. No, thank you. And, unfortunately, Pratyush, as you know, I'm not a practicing hospital person. So my comments are sort of third-party learning from many people who are here, including Dr. Patan Shetty and Dr. R.V. Patil, Dr. Rajshekhar Sridhamkar. All of these people are in our network, Dr. Arjun. I think the biggest shift that has happened in this last 18 months is the ability to adapt and implement change in the hospital. COVID has done, I think, in the last 18 months, more transformation than any management consultant would have done over the last 30 years, trying to modernize, bring technology, virtual, and all of that. So doctors have stepped up, both from a clinical practice, but also adopting new ways of thinking. The second trend, clearly, I think everybody has realized this and noticed, is virtual care is no longer a novelty. Virtual care is sort of built into healthcare now. People are open to it. Doctors are comfortable with it, and they are using it. The third trend is now hospitals are also beginning to think about long-term sustainability. Given that something like this could, a pandemic like this suddenly changes everything for everybody, but you are in the middle of this. How do you make it sustainable, both for the hospital and also for themselves as doctors, right? Many of the people who are here are also practitioner doctors. So they're running the hospital and also practicing. How do you make sure that this is de-risked and there is some sustainability built in? These are the three things I think are critical, but I'm happy to invite others to share their views as well.
Yeah, I think we'll have to start calling out people to share their experience. I was hoping that we'll have volunteers to share their experience, because that's how we'll be able to facilitate the peer-to-peer learning. Unless we share the experience, we'll not be able to learn from it. So anybody who would like to...
One second, I think Kishore is trying to say something.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I am Nandini. I head the IT at Fernandes Foundation. Thank you for making us join this group. As Ashwin rightly said, yes, doctors have stepped up adopting the technology, where most of the hospitals were struggling getting the technology implementation. But during the COVID, there has been a drastic change in the doctors adapting to the technology. And not only from the clinical perspective, the hospitals started looking technology adoption in all the processes. Like either it can be from the HR, quality, or front office and all, where the systems can work remotely. For example, we adopted to a technology and we have a call center, and we are given the option for the employees to work from home. So those are the things where the hospital started adopting to the technology. Apart from that, one major concern is the data privacy, because since now the applications started opening up to the outside world. All these days, the hospitals were very closed and they were accessing only inside the network. Due to this pandemic, the hospitals are forced to open up their application to the outside world. Due to the time limitation and all, they were not able to get in the required tools in place. But yes, slowly the hospitals have started implementing the new security tools into the system. That's my take on that.
Thank you, Mr. Kishore. Thanks a lot for sharing your experience and thoughts. We'll probably go to the next question now. I would like to understand from the doctors here, how is the patient behavior changing and how is it impacting the hospitals? So if anybody would like to share their experience, it would be great for all of us. Maybe Dr. Arjun, you can probably share your thoughts.
Hi, sir. Sir, can I have the question if you can read out once again? Sorry.
Yeah. So I wanted to understand, COVID has forced the change in the patient behavior. So how are the hospitals coping up with this change in the patient behavior? And going forward, what are some of the things that the hospitals will need to do to adjust to this changing, patient behavior?
Okay. Firstly, I would like to thank the Wadhwani Foundation for giving me an opportunity to talk. Hi everyone. Sir, I am a quality consultant for hospitals. So from my perspective, I can say the fear in the patients is still there. Okay, so getting back to the hospitals is still what they're afraid of because of the consequences of contracting the infection, COVID infection. So I feel patient education is very critical at this point. So hospitals need to educate the patients so that the fear is gradually minimized. And there are a lot of education softwares, I think, which are already in the market, which they can use, and contents can be developed based on the specific scenario. So this way they'll be able to minimize the fear among the patients and slowly get back to normalcy. That's what I feel.
Thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts. My next question is around the workforce related challenges that the hospitals typically face. We all know there is huge attrition, but especially in the COVID times, what were some of the workforce related challenges, and if somebody could share their experience, how they address that? Maybe Dr. Piyush Malhotra, if you could go next.
Yeah, hi everyone. Dr. Piyush Malhotra from Ujala Signals Healthcare. And with my experience, I would like to share that since we had been running on a PPP model, a 1,000-bedded jumbo COVID center in Delhi, and we started off in the second wave during May only, and we faced almost the same kind of issues with the manpower hiring and a lot of other things as well during that phase. We had been connected to a lot of consultants basically for hiring of doctors and nurses, and we had been utilizing a lot of other aspects or connects also to make sure that the ends would meet up and the community could be benefited, since it was a not-for-profit thing actually. So what we did that time, I would like to share that we channelized our doctors and nurses and healthcare staff from our non-focus areas, or what I should say is, since the COVID was more prevalent in the initial phases of those months in Delhi, and then it shifted towards the other parts of the states. So there was actually a shift in the peak of COVID from metropolitan cities to the non-metropolitan areas. So we had the idea of shifting or moving our healthcare staff or utilizing those staff in the areas where once there was a peak, like it was there in Delhi initially, and it shifted out to the other states. So we moved our staff from distant states, Uttaranchal and Uttar Pradesh areas, towards metropolitan Delhi units, just to make sure that we are not short of any staffs during the peak times. So that was the one thing that we did for that. And the same we did for the other supply chain and other commodities also. So we moved our ventilators, oxygen, and a lot of other things as well from the other areas where the peak was found shifted later to the metropolitan areas initially, and then it was shifted back to those areas when the cases shifted back to the other cities and the non-metropolitan areas later. I hope I was clear. I'm not sure that everybody understood that.
So thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts, and you're very, very clear, and this definitely helps the audience here. My next question is around the top 3 key performance indicators to understand the health of your business for the hospitals, because now key performance indicators are some things which need to be tracked very, very closely, because COVID has made it mandatory for everybody to keep track of, say, cash situation and everything. But I would like to hear the hospital leaders here to share their thoughts. What are the 3 top indicators that they really want to track very, very closely? So before I call out somebody, if somebody wants to volunteer and share your thoughts. Okay, so maybe Samir, because this is related to the key performance indicators and understanding the business health, would you like to share your thoughts on this?
Basically, I think just drawing on the experiences that we have had in sort of advising and transforming the different organizations, not only in healthcare but also in other industries, the things are very, very clear. A lot of times what we have found is the 3 things basically, and I will put them as the top stack ranked. The first is that a lot of the owners, the entrepreneurs, the top management at the hospitals tends to focus on a lot of the short-term measures and a lot of the short-term KPIs. What are they? Basically, every hospital wants to ensure that their cash position is fine. The revenue per bed, in terms of any other economics that is important from the short-term perspective, they're usually worried about that, and they want to focus on that, and they want to make sure that their short-term sort of cash flows are intact. Now, that's something that we have found as a significant measure, partly driven by where COVID is, because COVID has kind of, made it more difficult for a lot of these hospitals to survive, and many of them face, in fact, existential crisis. So that's one top sort of problem statement. The second problem statement that I usually worry about is really, what we have seen is that a lot of their patient feedback in terms of the clinical outcomes is still a problem. So which basically throws up many questions around the quality of the doctors, the quality of the physicians, the quality of the paramedical staff, the quality of entire patient journey that has happened. And what we have seen is that the patient is not necessarily happy across whether it is IPD, OPD, whether it is you take any other specialty, etc. So that is a second thing that we have found significantly. Third is, unfortunately, many of the hospitals are still dealing with some of the outdated and dated ways of dealing with the processes that happen within hospital, right from journey of the patient right at the start till the end. And we have found that sometimes is the awareness issue, sometimes is the issue of really knowing about it but not thinking that it's not affordable, therefore they can't sort of adopt it. And that has impacted the key performance indicators, which have to do with a lot of basic stuff. As a result of which, what has happened is that when one thinks about scalability and one thinks about really improving the patient outcomes and really the governance of the hospital done in such a manner that it is able to scale up, one is forced to first fix the problems which are short-term in nature, right? So often what we have done is that we have educated and helped these hospital owners and the management to be able to think obviously about fixing the short-term, but simultaneously think about what's going to happen in long term, right? Because most of our research very clearly indicates that in the downturn, if one is able to think about taking steps towards growth and not necessarily survival, they not only survive the crisis better, but they also are able to capitalize on the opportunities better in the upturn. Right. So one of the things that we have been able to sort of reinforce and focus on and nudge all these hospital owners is to focus on short-term KPIs, whether it is cash reserve, whether it is working capital, whether it is ensuring that, their efficiency measures in terms of processes are taken care of. The long term, which is basically how you're going to expand your hospital. How is it that you're going to become from 50 bed to 500 bed hospital? How is it that you're going to look at multi-speciality from single specialty? If at all it is single specialty, how is it that you're going to build scale there? How is it that you're going to look at the model of ensuring that your hospital becomes a cachet, not only for great doctors and great physicians, but it also become cachet for the right kind of patients, right? How is it that you're going to do that? What is the role of partnerships and alliances when one thinks about the hospitals, right? Whether it is medtech companies, whether it is their suppliers, other suppliers, whether it is, for example, partnerships in terms of technologies, whether it is in terms of really looking at not only digital, but also even in human interactions, how is it that they're going to improve the way they work on a long-term basis and more sustainable basis, and therefore what kind of partnership should they forge? All these things are having implications on their scalability, their revenue model, their ability to basically become a brand in itself. And many of the hospitals that we see in India today are limited, obviously, in terms of their scope and scale in a city or in a location. But the idea is that even in that location, how is it that they want to make sure that they are able to attract and retain the patients? How are they able to attract and retain the doctors? How are they able to retain and attract the nurses? And this all ties in very together. So ability to think about it holistically, seeing it in a long-term picture, juxtaposed with the short-term picture, are some of the typical issues that we have been able to sort of engage the hospitals on. And, when one thinks about this, it's also about finding the niche of that hospital, right? Because on one hand, there is a solid demand-supply gap that we all know, right? In terms of the deficit, in terms of number of beds, in terms of, the patient to sort of doctor ratio. And especially when it comes to rural settings and going in the interiors or tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities, the problem gets exacerbated and it kind of sort of amplifies, right? Now, we know that that's a quantity problem, but we also know that even in a limited scale, there is a consistency of the quality problem, right? So on one hand, one is dealing with the operational excellence related issues. There is a gap there. On the other hand, we are dealing with a lot of the growth issues, which is about scalability. And thirdly, underpinning all this is all about the suffering that innovation has had. Because if you were to spend rupees and dollars on innovation, it is assumed that you are taking care of the basic stuff. But often we have found that the money is spent on catering the basic stuff and fixing the basic stuff. No money is left to put in innovation, as a result of which the growth engines for future always suffers. And that's something that's a thing that Indian sort of healthcare system needs to address, not only on a standalone basis, but also on a regular basis. So when we look at discovery and transformation of looking at supporting these hospitals, we want to make sure rather that the mind share of all of you is not only invested in correcting the short term, but also in long term. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you require a scalability support, it's also about making a systemic impact on the Indian healthcare system, right? And we want to have a model wherein it's not only about curation, but it's also about prevention. It's about also holistic centricity on the customers and the patients that we have. And also at the other hand, we want to make ourselves, our nation, a leader in scale. I mean, today we are talking about an insignificant scale when it comes to global footprint, right? Whether it is spent on technology, whether it is spent on innovation, whether it is spent on really the different things that need to be taken care of, even within hospitals for basic stuff. So I think some of these experiences I wanted to share with you in terms of what are the classic conversations that happen between us and the hospital sort of promoters, owners, entrepreneurs, etc. When they look at undergoing this entire program of discovery in hospitals. And that really underpins the transformation charters or the key performance indicators one needs to really look at. Just like in manufacturing and traditional industrial houses, you have a wallet share. You want to make sure that the wallet of the patient is something that you want to have larger share of. But most importantly, in this case, it's not only about wallet share, it's about their experience on the health outcomes and non-health outcomes. It's also becoming significantly important. And as we know that now hospitals are reaching to patients, not necessarily patients are coming to hospitals, there is a significant shift, right? And it's no longer a geography, which is a limited, geography is no longer a limitation and constraint for a hospital to expand. Even with telemedicine and the traffic of the patients between national and international borders, the technologies of AI and data analytics are making it possible for doctors and physicians and even hospitals to think about models where they could serve patients even remotely to a certain extent. And then the treatment outcomes and the treatment pathways can be designed in such a manner that they are able to really conceptualize these innovative models. The funding entities which are looking at funding these programs are also behaving separately. So, we could go on, but I think these are the different things that basically are talked about, are being discussed when one thinks of the key performance indicators. So I'm hoping that this gives you some food for thought in terms of what is happening in your environments, your situations. But that's something that at least we have experienced. I wanted to share that. Thanks.
Thank you, Sameer. I would like to now invite Raki from NICE Foundation to share her perspective on importance of technology and digital technologies, emerging technologies, and with respect to your own organization, what challenges do you face? So I think we covered some interesting topics, and thank you so much for the audience who shared their thoughts and shared their comments here. So I think one of the ways to learn is through peer learning, and that's what one of the agenda for this Transform Health program is as well. But what next? So from tomorrow we are kicking off the real transformation, the transformation sessions and all. So I will request Vivian to once again showcase what's in store for tomorrow. So tomorrow, again, same time around 4 o'clock, we will have a panel discussion. This is related to some of the very, very critical challenges that hospitals across the board face with respect to, retaining and motivating workforce. How do you improve the patient experience and building and maintaining the hospital brand? And so this is between 4 to 5 p.m. and we are privileged to have Commander Navneet Bali as a moderator for this session. And the panelists are Mr. Sunil Daya, Mr. Sameer Sate, Ms. Sonali Gogia, and Ms. Arundhati Mukherjee. So this is between 4 to 5 p.m. and I'll request all of you to be part of this panel discussion. You will hear a lot of good thoughts and you will get to learn a lot from the experts. As well as in this session, we'll also request the audience to come prepared with their thoughts on these topics. And if you would like to share them, we would definitely want you to, facilitate that at the end of the day, at the end of the session. These sessions.
Pratish, will you allow me to interrupt, please?
Yeah, sure, sir.
Look, I think, let me address all the participants. I've been at least involved with the area of education and adult education. And I tell you, the best way to learn is to participate. If you don't bring out your thinking, if you don't, and look, initially we all feel worried, will I make a fool of myself? Will I say something that people will think low about me? No, there is, we have genuine problems. They are worth bringing out and solving. It's worth asking your questions. I appeal to you, please. The best way in which you will learn is by really openly participating. Please, and once you start, you'll find that you overcome your fear. So just start, please. Thank you. Sorry, Pratish, for interrupting.
No, I think this was much needed and very much aligned to what you just said. It is very, very important that we participate, and only through that we'll be able to, learn a lot. And unless we share our experiences, what we did to solve the challenges that we face, how would others learn? So that's very, very important point that you just made, Professor Ajit. Thanks a lot for that. So coming back on the panel discussion, these three topics are there, and the last part of this panel discussion will be opening it up to the audience to share their experiences on these topics. And once we have understood the challenges, once we have we have discussed about these three challenges, the next step is essentially what are some of the options available to us today? What are some of the things that we can do to address some of these challenges that we are facing at our hospital? So the first session will target to address the workforce related issues. So we have a free of cost skilling and training program, a lot of learning learning modules out there, mix of behavioral skills, mix of technical skills for the healthcare domain. So we will give you a quick walkthrough on that. And after that, on the next Wednesday, we'll have expert sessions on improving the patient experience and also on building and maintaining the hospital brand. So that's what is in store, and we'll be following the same approach. We'll do a panel discussion on a couple of important challenges that typically the hospital industry faces, and then we'll position some expert sessions, and these will be outcome-based expert sessions for you. So please participate. Please take benefit of the expertise, not only from the panelists, from the experts, but also from your peers. So with that, one more thing I would like to cover. What we have in store for you is not only the expert sessions, panel discussion, networking events, and everything. We are also extending you the help, the one-to-one support, which will help you in business transformation, which will give you access to 360-degree support tech platform, and will provide you the ongoing support. So the business discovery and the transformation, which Samir mentioned in the beginning of the session, we want to kick off that in parallel. So we will be reaching out to you one-to-one, scheduling sessions with you, giving you a walkthrough of how we typically do the business discovery, how we typically do the transformation support, and then we'll be scheduling sessions while this Transform Health program is going on. So will earnestly request all of you to benefit from the one-to-one support that we are extending through Transform Health. And then only I think the real outcome that we are all hoping for, all the partners which have come together to really ignite the healthcare ecosystem, that can only come if you are participating and benefiting from all the offerings that we are extending to you. So that's all we had. We'll look forward to connecting with you tomorrow again on Wednesday, and we'll have panel discussion and expert session. And thank you all again for participating today and being part of this amazing Transform Health initiative.